Photos are a necessity. Videos are nice to have, but you're being shown what someone wants you to see. A virtual tour kind of flips that script. They move through a space at their own pace. They linger in areas that are really important to them. This interaction changes everything. They start forming this emotional connection, and they can actually picture mom or dad living there.
What if your prospect already felt like they'd been there before they ever walked through the door? What if that sense of familiarity made them say yes faster? Today's guest isn't just mapping your community, he's unlocking how people make emotional decisions from afar.
Welcome to From Leads to Leases, a CCR growth podcast that helps senior living providers transform their complex challenges into opportunities. Listen in for stories from industry leaders, innovative strategies, and insights. And with our expertise, learn how to increase occupancy faster, guaranteed.
Welcome back to another episode of From Leads to Leases, the podcast that dives deep into the senior living and senior care industries, bringing you insights, strategies, and stories from the experts at the forefront of innovation, leadership, and care. I'm your host, Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth. CCR Growth is a full-service demand generation agency exclusive to the senior living industry. And through this podcast, I'm here to guide you through the evolving landscape of senior care, exploring the innovations, the strategies, and leadership insights that are shaping the future of the industry. So whether you're a provider, a caregiver, or an industry leader, the show is here to help you make informed decisions and create meaningful impact. All right, today's guest is Phil Gorski, founder of Senior Living 360 Tours, a company dedicated to building immersive, interactive virtual experiences for senior living communities. Phil's not just creating virtual tours, he's helping families say yes sooner by reducing friction, increasing transparency, and creating trust before the first tour ever even happens. What started as a post-transplant recovery project has now become a mission to humanize digital engagement in an industry where details and emotions matter deeply. So, Phil, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This is such a cool product and a cool topic. I think it's very interesting now with technology expanding the way it is. More communities are getting into more interactive tools and just trying to find ways to keep their prospects engaged and kind of like envisioning themselves. Can I see myself here in this community? Your backstory is personal and I think it's powerful. Can you share the journey from going from high-tech sales to recovering from a liver transplant and then how ultimately that led you into the senior living space? What a story.
Yeah, not a traditional route. I spent a career in high-tech sales. My most recent stop was with IBM, selling enterprise software to major retailers. So, but I found I had a autoimmune liver disease, which was slowly destroying my liver. So after a 4.5-year wait and a whole bunch of procedures, operations, I was given a second chance at life. I had a liver transplant, but during those 4.5 years, I had a lot of time to think. And what I realized is, although IBM was an amazing company with great people, I wasn't really passionate about what I was doing. And so I thought that if I do survive, because it was questionable there, that I'm going to do something that I could really love doing. And so, I stumbled across what at the time was an emerging technology, allowing you to create these 360 virtual spaces. And being a gadget geek at heart, it really caught my attention. Also, around that same time, I was looking to buy our second house to rehab and build out as a rental, part of our long-term retirement plan. And the online search process was really frustrating. Poor quality photos or over Photoshop, not really representing reality. You couldn't really tell the rooms were connected. It was like a jigsaw puzzle, a lot of imagery, nothing to really add context to it. And that's after seeing this technology, this solved a major problem for me personally. But I also knew that it would probably be solving problems for a lot of folks. So that started I started that process of researching, tried to get a job with them. They weren't hiring, but they said you could become, an independent service provider. So I brought their camera system, started to learn it. It was great, something to do during recovery and right up my alley as a gadget geek guy. Started by just shooting our property. And then I said, well, I might be able to make some money doing this. And so I started reaching out to residential real estate folks, started doing those, and that quickly grew to commercial spaces, hotels, resorts, and museums, in any environment where people really wanted to experience an environment more immersively.
I've been in marketing for almost 3 decades, and through my agency, I've helped some of the largest senior living providers attract qualified leads and fill rooms faster while lowering their acquisition costs. But one thing kept bothering me. While working with larger communities, I kept meeting smaller operators, 10 to 50 bed communities that were struggling to compete with the big box providers because they don't have the same budget, staffing, or support behind them. And as a small business owner myself, I get that. You're wearing 5 different hats, you're trying to fill rooms while still giving great care, and that's exactly why we built Growthly. Growthly takes everything we've learned from helping large operators fill their buildings and makes it accessible to smaller communities without retainers, without long-term contracts or inflated costs. It's a performance-based partnership, and you only pay when we deliver move-ins. We help you stand out online, stop depending on referral agencies, bring in qualified families, and fill your community faster. Growthly is built for your small community and designed for big results. Learn more at growthlyseniorliving.com. And you could have chosen any industry. Why senior living? What was the connection for you emotionally or strategically?
Yeah, it was emotional. I've been running around doing a lot of different industry niches, but something happened. It was a little over a year ago. I got a phone call from an old friend back east, and he was going through the process, which I will never have to go through. He was finding a place for mom. My parents passed away when I was young, so hearing his story and the emotional impact it was having on him, his mother, and the entire family was powerful. He was geographically closest to mom, siblings out of state, so he was tasked with driving her around and seeing multiple communities, reporting back to family members, looking on the website. It wasn't anything like being there. After hearing his emotional conversation with me, I had an impact. Families are making this very, very important and emotional decision, where the loved one is going to live and be cared for and feel safe. And so right about then, he made the comment to me. He said, what you do for hotels and resorts, you should do for senior living community. And I said, you know what, that's a good point. So I looked into it, and it seemed that the industry was lagging behind in their digital storytelling. So I saw an opportunity not only to help families during this emotional process, but to help the community stand out, build trust, and make a connection online.
I think that's a great point, that it's not only for the residents, but for the community itself to help build some authority and trust beforehand. As a demand generation agency, we help senior living communities create conditions where their prospects are already interested and already informed because they've built a credibility, trust, and value up front. So I think this is exactly what that's doing. As an immersive, interactive experience versus something passive like photos or videos, you're completely changing that whole experience. What about this immersive, interactive tool makes that experience different for families and for sales teams than just using photos and videos?
Well, photos are a necessity. Videos are nice to have, but it's one way. You're being shown what someone wants you to see. A virtual tour kind of flips that script, right? The viewer, the potential resident or family member, they take complete control. They move through a space at their own pace. They linger in areas that are really important to them that might not be showcased in a photo or two that you might find online. And they skip the areas that don't matter to them as much. So this interaction changes everything. They start forming this emotional connection, and they can actually picture themselves or their mom or dad living there. And then for the sales team, that means by the time a family reaches out after visiting you online, which is where they're going to start their search, they're already halfway down the path making a decision, right? They've been there. They've walked through the space virtually, and they're that interested. They're reaching out.
Have you got any feedback from the community itself? Everybody has an assumption about what matters most to their prospective residents. Like they're like, oh, it's the dining program or it's the activities room or the pool. Have you got any feedback where there was a surprising thing that people clicked on more often than not that they didn't think about beforehand?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because when people have control, right, they become explorers instead of spectators, right? It goes from a passive Now you're involved. So they can slow down to areas that really resonate with them. Maybe it's a garden, maybe it's an activities room. So, when the families do show up in person, they're already talking about the spaces they may have fallen in love with online. And that's really, really powerful.
There was a data point that came out from a McKnight study that found that 69% of adult children researching senior living, for a parent, they do it remotely and often across state lines. So what's happening emotionally for them when they control their own walkthrough versus being guided through, say, a video?
They have complete control, right? So as opposed to being a consumer and watching a highlight video blow through a community just to give an overview, which again is valuable. That doesn't give you a chance to really connect emotionally. So now you've got not only the potential resident can walk through at any time they want, right? 24/7. These tours are embedded on the community's website, but they can also have other family members walk through, and they could get together on a call, right? And all walk through together with or without the community's involvement. As a salesperson, that's a great opportunity to stage a call where all family members, all folks that are the people that are part of this process can walk through and ask questions, share information. In addition, we provide analytics. So we can show where people have gone, what rooms are being viewed, how long people have spent in each area. We can tell you what cities, where these people are coming from, heat mapping, if you will, of the areas of interest. And so that's valuable for the community, very valuable. So they know what areas people are most interested in as they walk through, as opposed to looking at a couple of photos where you're getting literally no feedback.
I would imagine that's probably something when somebody first thinks about embedding or integrating a virtual tour, I would imagine they're not really thinking about the data end of it. That's probably just an added bonus that when they find that out, that they can get this layer of insight that they couldn't get. Because if somebody's just looking at photos or videos, they have no idea, what's interesting to that person about that video or that photo.
Yeah,
This is pretty cool.
a perfect
Yeah.
example. We had feedback from a client that said most times was spent in the dining area and fitness area. So they started leading with those in ads or follow-up emails. Another saw a surprising number of viewers from out of state. So then they could do target marketing into those areas. So the data really helps them focus on what's working and what's not.
They have the ability to control what's shown first. I mean, usually with a virtual tour, it kind of starts with the entryway, but what if a community wanted to start somewhere else in the building? Is that possible?
Yeah, we can set it up any way they want to do that, right? So what we like to do is we like to give, when we create our virtual tours, we give them the ability to literally start at the front door, because obviously logically that's where they're going to show up. They can literally walk through the entire community, all the common areas, just literally walk through. But in addition to that, we have a menu where they can jump to an area of interest. For example, we could have all these common areas. We could show the dining room, the library, or the fitness area, and they can immediately jump to there, or they can literally walk there. So we give them both options, because maybe they want to get a real feel for the layout, and so we give them option. But we could start the tour anywhere. Most logical is at the front door, but then with that menu system, they can hop around, quickly navigate to wherever they're interested in.
I love that menu system. That was one of my biggest pet peeves about some of your competitors' technology, because you literally just had to click room to room to room to room to get around. And half the time they're not even labeled. So you don't even know where you are in the building. It's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, I learned that in other virtual tours where we were tracking things before we developed the menu system, and people wouldn't stick around very long. They get frustrated. They don't know where they are, right? And so you need more, because what's the whole idea of having this? It's to showcase the place, but to allow people to navigate quickly to areas they're interested, maybe avoid areas they're not. So we want to give them the option. And yeah, I agree. It's critical.
You mentioned the sales team kind of changing up their ad campaign based on some of the rooms that people were interested in, or areas of the community that they were interested in. Have you seen that your clients are using data to actually adjust more than that in their sales and marketing strategy, or is it just kind of what they're showing and to who they're showing it to.
I think it's a learning experiment too for a lot of communities. They think they know, right? And so this is either confirming that you are right or surprising you, going, oh, well, maybe not. This area that we thought was so great and we feature and highlight, very few people are going there. Instead, they're visiting here or here, because in addition to saying where they went, we can tell how long they were in an area. So are they hanging around in an area versus just walking through? That's really important. In addition to the analytics give you the total overall amount of time an average visitor is inside the tour, which, as you'd guess, is a whole lot more than the average time you're going to spend looking at a photo or something else. So yeah, those kind of things are real eye-openers for some. Some people, like I said, it's confirmed. Yep, that's exactly what we thought. People really love this area. And others are like, holy cow, well, we're not getting the action in that area that I thought we were. Maybe we need to rethink things.
I think one of the things that marketing teams and sales teams today are trying to do as best they can is to quantify the strategies that they have in place. Have you gotten feedback from the communities that you've worked with that since adding the tour feature, it's increased their tours or increased their move-in or shortened that sales cycle for them?
Yeah, most have seen an uptick, but it's really hard to quantify because once
it's not the only touch point, right?
Right. It's not. It's in addition to, not in lieu of, right? And so yeah, we can't really take that credit. We'd like to think that we're making a positive impact, and based on just the time spent and the online increase of total time on the website, we've had an impact. But I can't, unfortunately, track it all the way down to with that sale because of us. But just in pure numbers, it leans heavy to saying, yeah, we're making a big impact. It's certainly impactful when they hear feedback, from folks about walking through and about what it did for them. And the sales teams seem to really like it because it's another touch point. It's a follow-up. It also gives them a unique opportunity to, like I said, reach out and do a call with them, and they both walk through, or bring family members on. One other nice little feature or benefit that we didn't really pinpoint when we first started doing these was an awful lot of communities, almost all communities, go out into the public for health fairs or whatever. And so they're tabling, they got just their little table with brochures. Well, now with an iPad or a tablet of some sort, they've got their whole community right there. So it's next level in-person marketing. You can show a brochure while you're standing there talking to someone, or you can actually literally walk through or give them the iPad and say, oh, check this out. It really takes it to the next level.
That would be so cool. I can imagine that. And then I think too, with marketing teams today, that there's a statistic that says it takes anywhere from 20 to 27 touch points to get a prospect all the way through the senior living sales cycle, and sometimes even longer than that. I would bet that this probably cuts a good percentage of those off. So I think the sales cycle is probably shorter. And like you're saying, dwell time too, because I know video, if you have video embedded in your pages, that typically will increase the dwell time significantly. So if you have an interactive tool like this as well, it's definitely going to increase engagement on your site. And the longer they're there, the more likely they are to take the next step, right? To take some type of action. If you don't give them the opportunity to spend some time with your community, it's less likely to happen. So
yeah,
I love
I
that.
agree with that wholeheartedly. What I keep coming back to is this emotional connection. Right? We just came back from an anniversary trip, and we looked at several hotels and resorts to try to get a feel for it. And if you're trying to get someone to spend time with you with us a week, or in this case, a much longer visit, they have to feel comfortable. Right, there has to be some sort of emotional connection. They have to feel like they belong, or they can picture themselves there. And like I said, this dwell time, this walking through at their own comfort and pace level. And of course, it's increasing your SEO tremendously too, as they're spending more and more time engaged. But it does. Perfect example. Like I said, we had a couple of rental houses, and so we use these when we market a house when it's vacant. We've rented to people from out of state multiple times that never set foot. Find an agreement online.
That's amazing.
In addition to that, even if they're local, every time without missing a beat, when I I'll meet someone over there and we'll do a walkthrough and we get the checklist and we're just giving them the keys and welcoming them. Without a doubt, I'll just say, we're standing at the front door and I said, and I'm pointing. I'm saying, okay, so down there is where the kids' bedroom are. And they'll interrupt me. They'll say, oh, we know. They look around, they go, we've been in here so many times. I know my way around here. And that really resonated with me. That started in like 2017 and still true today. So if they're building some sort of emotional connection to rent a house, or I'm trying to figure out where we're going to take this vacation, it just seems so natural and so needed in one of the most emotional chapters of your life.
Yeah. And I think in the senior living space too, you have a lot of people who are trying to find a place for mom or dad sight unseen, right? Like they haven't even looked at the place. They've seen photos, maybe a video or two, but they're signing on the dotted line before they ever even tour because occupancy rates are just increasing every day as the population increases of older adults looking for senior housing. So this is a challenge for people, and I've heard a lot of horror stories of people who've done that and then instantly regretted it as soon as they moved in. What was promised was not what was delivered by any means. So I think, like you're saying, the whole trust factor of being able to have an experience of the community beforehand and then actually showing up and seeing the same layout, the same everything is the same as it was in the tour. I think that's probably so reassuring for families.
Absolutely. You want to build trust and an emotional connection and transparency, because I referred back to my residential real estate shopping, if you will. You're going to find out what it's like, right? So you have to be upfront and transparent. When they show up in person, they're going to see it, right? And I think what I would want would be for someone, which I do want when we promote a home, is I want them to know exactly what, is it going to work for you or not? I mean, of course, I'd like you to move in, but what's more important is I want you to move in and be there a long time, not just get a sale, right? So you got to think beyond that, and it's like you said, it's gonna come up. There's no hiding it, and it just gives people a level of comfort in dealing with you from the very beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point that people are asking that question. Is this right for mom or dad, or is this right for me? And if they can get that sense from the tour versus other assets that are on the page, I think that's going to be really valuable. One of the things too, I think that's really cool about your offering that not a lot of others are doing is the pre-leasing aspect of it. So you've got some other tools and functionality that are available to communities, virtual staging, 3D floor plans. I think you've even done like 3D mapping of the entire community. How do these things enable communities in terms of like pre-leasing, and have you seen how buyers are responding to that?
Yeah, there's a lot going on in our rendered area. We call it rendering. So we can provide from the simplest things a 3D floor plan. You know, a lot of communities reach out to us and they'll say, hey, we've got these old black and white ones. Can you turn it into a 3D floor plan with either a top-down view with all the furniture in place, so it gives a better visual of what's this setup going to be like if I move in, maybe a little angled one. Sometimes folks like that. But the days of the old black and white are just, people, they want more. And again, this is one step closer to being able to say yes, right? They're feeling comfortable. They're visualizing by walking through. Now we're looking at a room that's set up. A lot of communities, so the floor plans we can do for the apartments. We've even most recently done it for the entire community, all the common space, a big old, 10, 12, 15,000 square feet. So they know how things are laid out. And again, for multiple purposes, right? To give them a sense of understanding the layout so they feel at home and comfortable walking around. Also great for the community, quite frankly. Maybe, with turnover, you have new hires. They can take a tour themselves and get familiarized before they even start day one.
Yeah.
So in
that's a
addition
great
to the
point.
community floor plans and the 3D floor plan, we can also do virtual staging, meaning not a lot of communities, or not all communities, I should say, have a model apartment or two or three. Some do, and that's wonderful. A lot don't. And so what we can do is we can go into an apartment that's empty and stage it virtually. And there's examples on our website of that where you can walk through a studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and it's empty when we shoot it, but after we clean it up, when we put in furniture, it's a you get a walkthrough experience of the exactly how it's going to look or could look. And then finally, for pre-leasing, we can do rendered images, extra images. Those are quite common, coming soon type stuff. But we can also work with you to create a 3D or a 360 rather walkthrough of a space that doesn't exist. Much
Wow.
like we do with an existing
That's
community.
crazy.
Yeah, so we get
Yeah.
the architectural drawings and the FF&E information and colors and whatnot and work together with you. And we can do exactly what we do for a built community. We can do it for a pre-built. And obviously that takes and we can also do an overview video as well. But that takes the comfort level of, signing on the dotted line while the building is under construction to the next level, because people can really immerse themselves just like they would as if it was built. We've done that in the commercial space before, but we're talking to a couple communities right now that are going to be breaking ground shortly. So yeah, we're excited about all the rendering sides, from photos to video to the 360 walkthroughs, the floor plans, etc. Just a great way again to showcase what is or what's coming.
One of the cool things too about virtual staging is you mentioned if people have empty rooms and they want to stage them. I also thought it could be a cool way for communities that have rooms that are being staged right now to actually be able to rent out those rooms. If they did virtual staging, rather than having model rooms that are sitting empty, they could actually have residents in those. So
Yeah,
that could be an added value for them too.
I think about that when I go into, and normally it's the higher end communities that will segregate, 3 rooms or so, studio, 1 2-bedroom, and then just have them locked off for in-person visits. Obviously, that's a business decision. We'll do whatever you want, but yeah, that's obviously quite an investment, or how should I phrase it? They're not generating revenue from a staged apartment, so we could shoot it as it is staged, and then you could rent it out, or we could virtually stage something. But yeah, we'll work with you, whatever you want.
Why would somebody say no to implementing this in their community? Is it really just a budget thing, or have you heard other objections? I can't imagine there would be any.
Um, no, it's really been interesting. Haven't had too many absolutely no's. I think myself, the biggest challenge is getting some time with someone, and in literally 15 minutes of just walking someone through and quickly explaining to them, but they sell themselves. It's a very visual medium, right? An old expression from a sales manager of mine at IBM was, it's okay if someone says no, but your job is to make sure they know what they're saying no to. And so I think for most folks, a lot of folks don't really understand what we offer. They think a virtual tour, they think maybe a highlight video or a slideshow of photos that still exists out there, and that's a virtual tour. But the key description is interactive virtual tour, 360 interactive. So yeah, budget's usually not the issue. We can work with communities on that. Yeah, I just think a lot of times people are just saying no because someone's trying to offer them a service that they think they don't need.
Yeah, I mean, we think about COVID. There was a huge explosion of virtual everything because nobody could do anything in person, and they never really went away. So I'm just curious why this would still be underutilized.
Yeah, I asked myself that a lot too, because everyone was very open and willing to try everything and anything. And now I think, prospects, technology keeps changing and getting better, and things are going from a nice to have to almost a must have, right? People are expecting that. It's not like, that looks really cool, and you're in the minority. I think people are demanding that, just like my friend's experience in Florida. He was just going, I can go take a vacation, I can go on a business trip, and I can look at a hotel, and I can walk through and look around, but I can't do that for a place that mom's going to move into. I don't know. I'm biased, of course. Cost benefit of this is fantastic. So I don't know why it's underutilized. I honestly don't. I think it's just an education thing. I think people
It's got to be. Yeah.
People get busy and they just check the box. So we've got photos, we're done. We don't need that. After looking at some of these monthly analytics reports, they're getting a lot of visitors. They're spending a lot of time in the community. And I just, as a sales guy, I know that when you build comfort and familiarity, that's going to shorten the sales cycle. When someone's comfortable with what you're offering and they're buying into it and they're spending time there, it just is a natural progression. It does shorten the sales cycle. So I don't know. I hope adoption picks up. We're ready.
We talked about the features. We talked about the benefits of the features. Walk me through, pretend you're someone who's experiencing this for the first time. Paint a picture of what does a fully loaded virtual tour experience look like for a prospective family?
So from the family's point of view, so when you go to a website to start your search, which you mentioned, vast majority of folks are going to start online. I think the last study I saw was 80, 85. I can't believe it's not 95. But that's where everything starts online. And when they're going to go to a stereotypical community's website, the community does a wonderful job talking about what a wonderful place it is. But when it comes to the actual living there, what is it like to be there? They kind of fall a little short in providing content for that part of the discussion. They might show, a photo of a living room, maybe a random photo, but most of the imagery online is stock photos of older, happy people, which is great because you want to portray that it's a fun place to be, but I'm not just visiting, I'm going to move in, and so I want more. And so that's why, in addition to that, if you can allow families to experience and to walk through it, it just reduces a tremendous amount of stress. That builds that confidence, and it allows them to, at their pace, explore together what it's like. So it's, again, I'll say it's not in lieu of photo, videos, those are critical, but it's in addition to, and it's a powerful add-on to really let people engage and build that level of trust and community. And then again, on the sales side, now as a salesperson, you're always looking for extra ammunition. You're looking for ways. My goal would be to get someone there, but guess what? Maybe someone can't get there. Maybe moving from out of state, the only way they're going to be able to make a decision on your community is what you're offering online. And that's not good because there's too many holes. So I think that that will really the void we fill with a interactive 360 virtual tour.
I've even seen some communities now, they're doing live tours. Is this something that you guys have looked into, like doing a live guided virtual tour of some kind? How would that work?
Yeah, when some people think of live tours, generally think they're walking around with their cell phone and they're doing a FaceTime.
Yeah, that's what I'm envisioning.
Well, and I've heard from a lot of people that's very frustrating. It's the last community I was talking to, saying the problem is when I go around the hall, our Wi-Fi drops and I can't go down that end of the building. And it is kind of, you've seen when someone tries to do a live thing, they're not professional videographers and it's going to be herky-jerky and you don't get scope. And so it's really challenging. When we think of a live tour, the best solution right now for us is if someone in the community just had a scheduled, like a Zoom call or something, right? They can invite a lot of people in and they can walk them through and, address all their questions and visit wherever they want to visit. Families can do that on their own, of course. We're in development about finding a way to do that inside the tour, meaning some people aren't comfortable with Zoom. They have to download the app or, Teams or fill in the blank. That might be a little intimidating for some. So we're working on as a way to just have a link. And what happens is when someone click on the link, whatever device they're on, whether it's a phone, a tablet, anything with a camera, the camera will turn on. Well, you prove it, but it'll turn on, the audio will turn on. And all of a sudden, it's like a Zoom call without downloading Zoom. So a little, up to 8 people could be on the call. And you can walk through, you can turn over control to someone they can walk through. So we're developing that right now. I'm asking all of our existing clients, is this something that would be of value to they like the idea, like the concept. Some just said, no, we just use them, we're good. but it'd be nice to be able to offer it. People don't have to use every feature, but so we're looking at that because the alternatives aren't great. The hand is walking, this thing as you walk someone around it.
Yeah, that would be a nightmare.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine if you've got family members spread out all over the country too, for everybody to be able to hop on and get walked through a tour of the building with the representative from the community itself who could answer questions along the way. I mean, that would be super valuable.
Absolutely. Zoom works great at that, right? Right. They could have multiple people join, but yeah, just the ability to walk everyone literally through at once. Yeah, that's huge. I know that, like I said, back to my friend in Florida, he would have really appreciated if the couple communities around him had that, because his brothers and sisters, they're not going to fly in from all parts of the country to tour a place. They're not.
Yeah. Yeah, not every place is ready to tour either. Some places they require you to make an appointment ahead of time. So if you're flying into town and you have a short window to see 5 or 6 communities versus if you could do it from home and never have to leave and you already have an idea of, okay, these are the top 3 based on the tour that I just took, that would certainly save you some time and frustration.
It's interesting because I'm just outside of Portland, Oregon, and although we're not a huge city, our traffic is terrible. Just even if you were local and if you wanted to go see a few communities, that's a real challenge. Traffic is bad. It's exhausting. And to be able to schlep around for a couple communities, it's not easy. And some folks, have a harder time getting around. And as we mentioned earlier, sometimes someone's moving to the area to be near their child or grandchildren, but they're out of state. And so how many are they going to fly out? And I don't know. So it just, like I said, they may, but this just is another level of comfort where they can visit it at any time, 24 hours a day, just hop online and walk around and revisit things. So yeah, there's a lot to that. And it keeps coming back to that emotional connection, the transparency, the confidence for the resident and their families. And again, a real cool tool. If I was in sales, I would certainly love to have something like this.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I think it sells itself. The tool sells itself, but I also think the community can sell itself too if they're using these types of interactive features for prospective residents and their families. My last question for you, I'm curious, when I think of a virtual tour, I always think of like the brand shining new pretty community that's got all the bells and whistles and they're going to want to show off every corner of the community. What about an older community? Maybe it's an aging building or maybe it's got some areas that don't look so great on a virtual tour. I mean, have you seen these types of communities engage with this? And if so, like, do you think that this adds value to that experience for prospective residents?
Yeah, we've had some communities that have brought that up. They're saying, look, we're not a 5-star resort here. We're an aged building. And some may be having renovations scheduled. There's a couple right here local that is saying, well, let's hold off. We're going to do renovations in a couple of years. So, well, what are you going to do between now and then? You still need to fill the rooms. So I guess the reality is people are going to find out, right? They're going to eventually probably come visit and do a walkthrough. And so it's all back to that transparency line, right? It's like, this is what we have. Is this going to work for you? You're not going to show up, see it, and they're going to talk you into it if that's really, really, if the visual is really, really important. So again, our goal is to provide transparency to shorten the sales cycle. So if the community may be a little dated, I've heard comments from a lot of folks saying that there's some real brand new, high-end, beautiful communities with some potential residents saying, well, this just isn't me. I can afford this, but that's not my style. And so you can't make assumptions. And so I think you have what you have. One comment, a good time to mention this, is that what we can do feature-wise is throughout the tour, we can put in, some people call them hotspots, some people call them informational tags, but we can have little pop-ups. You click on it, a pop-up, and it could be a video clip, it could be text, it could be a PDF or a photo. For example, if you're walking me through a community, as we go room to room, area to area, you're going to tell me something about that area, right? You're not just going to
Yeah.
walk by my side, right? So you're going to be soft selling me the whole time. This is the dining room, and Chef Joe does a great job. And hey, let's look at this menu. Well, why not have a little pop-up with a sample menu? You walk in there and there's pop-up. Or maybe it's the talking head. Maybe it's Chef Joe. Hey, welcome to my kitchen, blah, blah, blah. Here's the sample menu, etc. Same in the communities area, same in the rehab area, the gym, whatever. You've got these opportunities to put these little hotspots. You go into a room itself, some may have some extra security features in the room. You wouldn't know it by looking at a photo or even walking through. So why not call them out? You sprinkle these in. It does two things. One is it's soft selling while you're walking through. It's confirming things, letting you know what's important and what you as a community are promoting on why we have a great community for you to live in. Second, it almost gamifies the experience. I'm in the virtual tour and it's almost like, oh, what's this? Pop. So you're being soft sold. You're learning, again, comfort, transparency. And guess what that does to your engagement time? If they're reading or watching little video clips while they're walking through, it's huge.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. There's maybe overwhelming is the right word. It was overwhelming for me because I was surprised, but there's a lot of older adults and their families who do prefer an older community. One that's, weathered the storm, that has staff that's been there for, say, 10 years, 12 years. Some of these newer communities, brand new staff, never have worked together before. The building doesn't have any kind of a sense of flow or how things are going to operate yet. So there could be a lot of unknowns, even though it's got a beautiful chandelier and an amazing, restaurant. It's got multiple restaurants in it, or whatever features they have. That may not be enough to sell somebody versus these older communities that are well established. And like you said, there could be all these little features that in a virtual tour they could still showcase. Maybe the the paint color is not as nice as some of the newer communities, but maybe they have these extra special features that some of those communities don't have, and they're able to highlight that in the tour. So I love that.
Yeah, and just like people's homes, people like an older home. My brother lives in Buffalo, and he loves, he's in a 1900s home. He loves that style and that vibe. I don't, but that's okay. That's what he likes, and that's what he would gravitate toward, given a choice of a current or modern kind of a community or an older established type of community. That's where he's going. That's what he would choose. Same when he vacations, the same thing. I go to different types of hotels and stay than he does. And so, there is not a one size fit all, but I think our overarching goal is just to let people know exactly what the community looks like.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Phil, thank you so much for such a great interview. This is such a cool product. I know that our audience is going to fall in love with it as soon as they play around with the one you have on your website. So where can our audience go to learn more about Senior Living 360 Tours or connect with you directly?
Well, the easiest place is our website, seniorliving360tours.com, or just connect with me on LinkedIn. I love collaborating and sharing ideas with others in the industry. But at the end of the day, our mission is really simple. We help communities stand out. We help families feel connected before they even walk through the door.
Awesome. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to extend a huge thank you to Phil Gorski for joining us and sharing how immersive storytelling and analytics are transforming the way senior living communities market themselves and serve families. So, Phil, your creativity, transparency, and passion are exactly what this industry needs more of. If you want to connect with Phil or explore Senior Living 360 Tours, you'll find everything you need in the show notes. As always, we hope you found this episode insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and stay tuned for more episodes where we continue to explore the evolving world of senior care, covering everything from innovative care models and leadership strategies to family support technology and the future of aging. Also, remember that From Leads to Leases isn't just an audio experience, we're also a video podcast. So if you want to see video versions of our episodes like the one here with Phil, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube or Spotify channels. I'm Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth. Thank you for joining us on From Leads to Leases. Please like, subscribe, and share this episode with anyone who might find it useful. I'm truly grateful for your time and attention. And until next time, lead with strategy and with heart. Chat with you again soon. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to From Leads to Leases. Are you ready to fill your rooms faster and increase occupancy? Visit ccrgrowth.com to learn about our Senior Growth Innovation Suite, a proven system to generate highly qualified, tour-ready leads, accelerate sales, and reduce acquisition costs. Let's connect and turn your challenges into opportunities. See you next time.